Listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio AM 820 brings you Family Sanctuary, a show that inspires living the gospel message in word and deed within our families. And now, Family Sanctuary with host Peggy Hartshorn.
Welcome to our program, Family Sanctuary, focusing on the life-giving relationships and the family. Today, we've got a really unique show in that your normal host, Peggy Hartshorn, chairman of the Heartbeat International that advances life-affirming pregnancy help around the world. That's usually how I introduce myself. And I'm usually your host, and I'm usually interviewing a guest. But today, we are switching hats, and one of the guests that I've interviewed many times on the program, and I hope you've heard him as a really wonderful guest speaking to issues of the family and marriage particularly. One of my previous guests, Professor Perry Cahall, who is the academic dean and professor of historical theology at the Josephinum. What a powerful title, but he really is an ordinary, wonderful person. As you'll hear, he doesn't just speak in Professor Ease, right, Perry?
I hope not.
Right. He is a husband and father, and we've had some wonderful shows with Perry, helping us understand God's plan for the family and God's plan for husband and wife. And so I hope you'll search our archives and find some of our programs with Perry. But today, we're switching hats. And Perry is going to be interviewing me. I'm going to be the guest. And so with that, let me turn it over to Perry.
Thanks, Peggy. Yeah, we'll switch roles today and see how this goes. I won't be quite the consummate host that you've been, but I'll do my best. So let me begin by actually giving people a little of your background, so in case they're not aware of it. Obviously, Peggy's the regular host of the Family Sanctuary here at St. Gabriel Radio. She's a member with her husband, Mike, of St. Mary Parish in German Village and active in the Diocese of Columbus for nearly 50 years in worldwide marriage encounter, working in the parish and involved intensely in pro-life ministry. For example, she's the founder of Pregnancy Decision Health Centers over 40 years ago, still continuing. By profession, she's a college English professor, having taught at Franklin University for 20 years. And she is the president of Heartbeat International for 23 years now and chair of the board, which is the largest network of life-affirming pregnancy help in the world, with 3,000 locations in over 60 countries, and it's headquartered right here in Columbus, Ohio. She's also, most recently, the author of a book called The Love Approach, 4 Proven Steps to Transforming Relationships in Your Family, Church, and Community. And this book pulls together or draws from Peggy's training and communications with her work in pregnancy health centers and her role as a wife, mother, friend, and member of the church community. This book is going to be the focus of our conversation today. It's a book that's been endorsed by people like Jonette Bankovic, the EWTN TV and radio hosts that are known by many of you out there. It's also been endorsed by Father Frank Pavone, the founder of Priests for Life. And I do want to put my own plug in for the book. I read Peggy's book. I think it's great. I actually used some of her insights with a family member and in a conversation I had with a family member, and I found the insights in the book to be incredibly helpful in this kind of difficult conversation that I had to have. So thank you for writing the book, number one.
Thank you, Perry.
And let's delve into it a bit. Could you explain, to the audience, like the background of the Love Approach and how you developed it?
Yes, and as you were introducing me there, I was thinking that I guess the gist of what I'd like to say about why I developed it is that since my husband and I really were married, actually, since we were married, we struggled with communication with each other, although we've known each other since the first grade. That's kind of strange, but really delving into difficult issues, really being able to communicate when there's a disagreement, when a subject is very sensitive, let's say, or one or the other could be hurt or is hurt, how do you really communicate and come to resolution on some difficult things? We started facing that not just in our own communication, but when we started housing pregnant girls back in 1975. We started in the pro-life movement in 73, and first thing we did was house pregnant girls. And they were faced with these really difficult issues, of course, communication issues in their own families. What am I going to do about this pregnancy that could be so shameful, perhaps, to my family? And is abortion my best alternative? What about that? They were so, conflicted. And at first, the solutions seemed pretty simple to me and my husband. Wow, well, of course, abortion is wrong. You need to have this baby. How about placing the baby for adoption if you are unsure if you can raise this child? Those seem like such good alternatives to us.
Right, yeah.
Why were people having trouble with that? We were so ignorant of really the struggles that these girls were going through until we started living through those struggles with them and trying to communicate, trying to really help them see the range of their options. Okay. So it was really struggling with people, including each other, in difficult issues that helped us to come to something that I call the love approach, which is a method, actually, of trying to work with another person through a difficult issue. And of course, we did that with the women that we were working with crisis pregnancies. But then we realized, wait a minute, this works with everybody. This works with each other as husband and wife. It works with our children. It works with our friends. It works with people at work. We realized in our pregnancy center, this method of communication that I call the love approach was working to help us resolve issues on our board, on our staff. It's just a good way to work together through difficult issues. And let me say that I wrote a manual about this back in 1994 when I became president of Heartbeat that's now taught all over the world for pregnancy help. But for years, people have been saying, write the love approach for everyone. Let's all learn the love approach. And it really can help resolve difficult issues and restore relationships and build relationships. It can be pretty universal, which is very exciting. And it's been a long time since I wrote the manual in 1994. How many years is that? A long time. And it's taken me a long time to put this in a little book that I hope is very readable and interesting and fun to learn the love approach.
I think it's all those things.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And as you said, like the love approach is this method, for communication. I want to delve into the method a little bit. So the love approach, love, and the title is an acronym, LOVE. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about what each of those letters stands for and how they're all part of this method of communication. So let's start with the L first. What does the L stand for, and how do you incorporate that in this method of communication?
Okay. Could I just, before I talk about the L more
Sure.
specifically, yes, the LOVE does stand for the 4 steps, and I'll say what those are in a minute. But it also, I came up with the 4 steps because the first thing I realized when I was trying to talk to these pregnant girls, and I realized when many people try to talk to someone with a difficult issue, what they want to do is kind of give all the reasons and talk about the rationale of this decision that they're facing. And that can come across as very unloving to a person who really is feeling like they're in a difficult situation. They're fearful, they're trapped, they're frustrated, they're unsure. And so what really struck me first was that I want to start communicating not as a teacher, giving all the pros and cons of all the options coming along here, but I want to be loving in this. And one of my favorite sections of the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8. And I'm just going to read it here, if you don't mind, because that came to me as an inspiration, I think. And I'll show you a still more excellent way, this says. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It's not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. And that became kind of my challenge with the pregnant girls. How do I help them in a way that is really loving? And then as I worked through that, I realized that the steps that I think God was leading me through could be expressed in LOVE. It just happened that way. And so because the first step is really obvious, listen and learn. Listen and learn.
Instead of trying to tell them what to do or trying to convince them that you're right.
Exactly. Exactly. If you're talking to someone who is obstinate or who's determined to do something that you think is harmful to them, even something that you disagree with on a heart-to-heart level, someone that you're even just having a communication block with, somehow we're just not able to discuss this. The first thing you need to do is listen to them, listen and learn, and force yourself not to jump in and finish their sentences. One thing in the book that I have is a list, and I came up with this based on personal experience. Believe me, I had to learn this myself. I lived through not knowing how to do this. And particularly that's very, hurtful in your personal relationships. Sure. If you're not listening to another person or if you're not being listened to. So all kinds of barriers to listen, like being distracted. You're trying to talk to someone and they're constantly fiddling with their cell phone, or the clicker on the TV, or my husband may be trying to talk to me and I'm got to finish this recipe on the stove. Whatever it is, it's a major problem in blockage in communication. Being distracted, thinking of my answer. Okay, what am I going to say to that? Interrupting the other person, pacifying, saying, "Oh, it'll be okay, it'll be okay." That's only the top 4. Right. I came up with 10 from my own experience that there's so many blockages to being a good listener. Yeah. So one of the things I try to do in the book is just help people see those kinds of blockages. Actually, there are different chapters in the book interspersed that give some exercises for people to try and to think through. Okay, do I do that? What are the distractions that most affect me? That I'm guilty of. So that it's a book that tries to help us look at ourselves and say, what is it that's keeping me from being a really good listener? Listen and learn. Because once we connect with a person, once they know that we're listening to them, all kinds of things open up. And
No, I thought those self-reflective parts of the book were incredibly helpful.
Thank you.
You have those parts for each of the different steps. And I thought those are really helpful exercises. And I will say too, I think this approach, at least in my own experience, sometimes the listen and learning step can be the hardest with the people whom you're closest to.
Absolutely.
With your family.
Yes.
It's because you assume that you're on the same page, or you kind of think, well, we should be on the same page, and it's easy to kind of, assume these things or to stymie them and say, well, look, this is the way it should be. No, the listen and learn it applies to those who are closest to you.
Absolutely.
If you really love them, you should be willing to, sit down, and you make this point very clearly. You have to understand their perspective, even if you don't agree with it. Mm-hmm. You have to understand where they are before your dialogue and your relationship can progress.
To get into the options, which is the next step.
Yeah. So let's go to that step now. So the options.
Yeah, the options, and this is, like you said, Perry, where we almost always jump into.
Yes.
When we're trying to discuss something with a person. We're discussing what we should do or what you should think about this.
Or what you shouldn't do.
That's right. Or, what's our path forward in this without truly listening first. But when you listen, you'll pick up things that you didn't know about how the person was feeling, thinking, what they want and here's a really difficult thing often for couples to share in the listening. What do I want? Because when you share what you want, that's really, really vulnerable.
Yes.
But if you've really delved into the listening and learning, then the options are much easier to talk about, because first of all, the person you're discussing with now really has a connection with you. You're much more connected. That person is much more open to what you have to say, because listening is truly a loving thing to do.
Yes, because you've been present to them and they've been heard.
Exactly. So when you go into the options, then it's really interesting. I did some research on options when I wrote this book, because, I was very used to talking to women about pregnancy options. But I realized when I started researching how people make decisions, this is valid in any kind of decision making, that there are 4 factors that characterize a better option. In other words, once a person chooses a path, for those who are satisfied with the choice they've made, the option they've chosen to proceed with, for those who are happy with that, usually that path has 4 characteristics. 1, it's been well thought out. Okay, so they have gone through a process of, what are my thoughts about this?
Right, it's not an impulsive decision.
It's not an impulsive, it's well thought out, and it's consistent with their values and beliefs. So in the listening stage, we really focus and think through our own values and beliefs about these options, about this situation that we're in. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's a marriage issue. All right, an issue in your marriage. How do I value you? How do I value our marriage? How do I value, our relationship going forward? What are my beliefs about that? Once we've been able to articulate that, then the options that we choose are going to be more consistent with that, we hope. So you're going to be happier with the option. If it fits, if it's well thought out, if it fits with your values and beliefs, let me put it this way, if you do feel that you've been free to choose it, you're not under any coercion, you're not under massive pressure.
You own the decision. You
own it. Yeah, you feel free to choose it. And then you have the resources to support that decision. And so that leads into some of the other parts of the love approach, because when you're listening to another person, you're also trying to figure out what resources do they have here? What are their needs and how are they being met? So as you sort through the options, you as the person that's helping, can really focus in on reminding them, okay, you shared about this is something that you really feel you need or you think you need. All right. And this option does provide for that. So you're kind of coaching. That's the role as a listener here and as a person sorting through the options. You're trying to be kind of a coach to help that person see the different options. Right. And most people, when they're in a difficult situation, will often think, I only have one option.
Right.
Yeah. Or I have 2. It's either this or that.
Right. It's this whole approach. I took it as trying to help people, really make responsible decisions that are theirs. It's not trying to make decisions for them. Mm-hmm. If as you're a couple, this is about making a joint decision, perhaps, or working just through difficult conversations.
Right.
So let's go to the next couple steps then. If we listen and learn and we talk about options, the V is for vision and value.
Vision and value. And that is a kind of an encouragement stage, that if you're the person helping another person through an issue, or if you're doing it together, often that person needs a new vision and value. They may think, I'll never be able to do this. There's no way. Or I've made so many mistakes in the past. I'm a failure. I can't do this. Or I just don't have the resources to do this. Or I've heard women with pregnancy related issues, I'll sometimes say to them, have you prayed about this? Oh, I don't believe God would hear me. They need a new vision. They need encouragement to say, Jesus loves you. And God will help you, or God will help us through this. The vision that we're not alone, or you're not alone, that you are a special person made for a special purpose. God has a plan for you. These are the kind of visions that people really need when they're struggling with an issue or problem.
And I thought your discussion of this was great in the book, because your point was, this is the point at which, as a believing Catholic, you can suggest things. You're not trying to foist anything on somebody,
Right.
but you're suggesting, have you ever thought of this?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought of the fact that God loves you and he's never going to leave you and he's with you in all things?
Right.
Let me get to the last step then. After you kind of interject some things to think about in terms of vision and value, then the E step, the extend and empower.
Yeah. The extend and empower step is really kind of walking with the person at that point, to encourage them, to continue to encourage them, finding a way to, okay, you've arrived at this decision, you've arrived at this option.
Now, how are
I
you
know God
it?
can do that. I know God can help you.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm here to help too. Helping them to understand that they're not alone. And if you can continue in this relationship and coaching them along the way, providing any resources, whether that's just encouragement, whether it's practical help. When we use this for pregnant women, of course, there's lots of available help and resources for them. And it's true in our own families. We can be those kinds of resources for each other. You can say, I want to talk to you. I want to continue walking with you in this. Is there a way we could meet again for coffee next week? Or can I give you a call? It will differ in each situation, but it's walking with a person that you've now developed a relationship with. Because
back to your original point, this isn't just about some type of mechanical way, walking through conversations are difficult. This is about loving somebody.
Yeah.
This is about really showing them love. And the extend and empower step is showing that you're willing to accompany them in whatever difficulties might result in implementing this decision that they've come to.
Yes, that's true.
Let me ask you a couple more questions in the time that remains.
Okay.
Could you say a little bit about the success of the love approach for Heartbeat International?
Well, it is actually being taught all over the world, and it's been translated into different languages. And now that's the version of the love approach that's specifically related to people with crisis pregnancies.
Okay.
And so, but not only are women all over the world being helped through this approach, but we believe that, again, our organizations are operating, we hope, in a more Christ-like way by using this method even, as I mentioned, with our staff, on our boards, with problem solving within our ministries, because we want to be a model of something different than simply a power structure.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the book really will be helpful. We've mentioned married couples, we've mentioned families, but I've written it in a way that I think it would be a powerful tool also for small groups, for book clubs, for ministry groups, for my husband and I still meet with a couples group for Marriage Encounter. We're always looking for things to read together and work at together. And, I'm envisioning that people can use it with another person, because you reading it and doing the exercise with another person or two persons or three persons really will help internalize all of the processes.
Yeah, and I do think it has application on all those levels that you mentioned. Families, workplace, every place. So because it has those multiple applications, can you just say where people can get a copy of the book?
Sure, absolutely. It is now in the Generations bookstore here in Columbus.
Great.
And it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble website. But if you want multiple copies, individual copies too, but you can get it from Heartbeat International, and then you get a discount.
Great.
On multiple copies. And there's a website, theloveapproachbook.com, theloveapproachbook.com. And that's where you can also get handouts too on that website of different things in the book, so you can look at different concepts if you want to. I'm hoping that I've made it kind of a fun book to read too, because there are characters in it.
It is, yes. It's a very dialogical. It's very an easy read and easy to get into, and the examples that you provide are very relatable.
And there's actually, you hear people using the love approach.
Yes.
Michael uses it with his wife. Katie uses it with a woman in her ministry group. Josh uses uses it with his son. Mariana uses it with one of her employees. So these characters that are struggling through relationship issues and communication issues, you hear them doing the steps.
Yes, and I think it helps to bring the whole love approach alive in the pages of the book.
Thank you.
So, Peggy, this was great. I was glad to switch roles with you today. Let me kick it back over to you to have you wrap up this session.
Oh, well, thank you, Perry. Well, I do hope people will give it a try, because it's simple. And it works. So, I'm just thankful that I've been able to talk about it today, and hopefully some people will look at the website, theloveapproachbook.com, get a copy, and spread the news. Use it in your families and use it in your small groups, and then let us know how it goes. We'd love to know. Thank you. So thanks again, Perry, for being the interviewer today. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
It was fun. And you are listening to St. Gabriel Catholic Radio with archives at stgabrielradio.com under the Family Sanctuary. And look up some of Perry Cahall's programs as well. They're so powerful. We're streaming live on stgabrielradio.com, and our program is broadcast at 4 o'clock every Saturday and 2 o'clock on Sundays. So join us again to strengthen our families and make them sanctuaries of life as God intends.
Amen.
Thank you.
Family Sanctuary is a production of listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio, AM 820. Archives of Family Sanctuary with Peggy Hartshorn are available at stgabrielradio.com.